Hello YouTube, it's the Magnum94 here, and it really bugs me when people essentially take rumors as fact. For some reason, some people see people like Eurogamer and Laura Kate Dale and Emily Rogers as everything they announce is fact. Now, they have got some things right, but not everything. So just taking everything as fact and then reacting to new announcements that go against what they said as, oh, like to help with my train of thought. Back when Smash Bros. Wii U was in development, there was some guy who came out and said that Smash Bros. For Wii U was going to release in spring of 2014. Now, there are multiple reasons why this doesn't make sense, especially since Mario Kart 8 was also coming out in the spring, and you would think that Nintendo would hold at least one game until their holiday season, that being Smash Bros. Making perfectly good sense. But regardless, this guy said that, had a rumor that Smash Bros. For Wii U was going to come out in spring of 2014. So then, Masahiro Sakurai released that Nintendo Direct in April. So I guess a lot of people assumed that at the end of that Direct, he would announce that Smash Bros. Wii U was going to be releasing like that day or later that month, I guess. No, he didn't do that. He did the reasonable thing and said that it was going to be coming out in the winter, or in that case, or really he meant holiday season, but they said winter for some reason. It's going to be coming out later in the year. And of course, because everyone... I saw multiple articles and videos of people saying that, oh, Smash Bros. Got delayed because the information that was released by Nintendo, which, mind you, that's the only time Nintendo had ever given us a window for that game that wasn't just 2014, because information released by Nintendo contradicted information that was a rumor by this random guy who wasn't even credible. People just instantly jumped on the idea that, oh, Smash Bros. Wii U was delayed. It just doesn't make sense to me. But going off that, the more recent example of a rumor being taken as fact is Eurogamer and I believe Laura Kate Dale. They released a rumor recently that Zelda Breath of the Wild would not be launching with the Switch. Instead, it'd be releasing a few months later during the summer. And of course, because they just happened to get what the Switch was right, they automatically, everything they say is true. So now people are shouting doom and gloom for the system. Oh, Zelda's delayed. The Switch is doomed. The Switch can't sell without Zelda. And Zelda hasn't been delayed. I mean, it has been delayed multiple times, but it hasn't. Saying that it would release in the summer is not saying that it was delayed. Nintendo has never stated an exact date or month window for that game. Now, they did, for like 2 days up on the Nintendo website, the Zelda amiibos had a March release date. That was taken down almost immediately when they found out that was a mistake. They probably just a coding error when they had the Switch logo, when they had like the Switch stuff also being up for March. They probably just accidentally put that as March too, so it makes sense. But yeah, I guess people were taking that as proof that, oh, because Nintendo took that down, that means it's not going to be March, it's delayed. And also, it was really just like people had the idea that Zelda would be releasing in March because that, I mean, it makes sense because that's kind of the game Nintendo seems to be pushing the Switch with. It was the game that revealed on Fallon. It was the first game shown in the Switch reveal trailer. It was the first game that we knew Nintendo was working on for the Switch. So it would make sense to assume that it would be coming out on the Switch at launch, but Nintendo hasn't revealed anything one way or the other. So you can't say a game was delayed when there wasn't an original release date. And you especially can't say that the Switch is doomed if it doesn't have Zelda at launch. So that brings me to the main topic of this video. Does the Nintendo Switch have to have Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at launch? Does it need Zelda at launch in order to sell? Now, people who are saying that the Switch is doomed because it won't have Zelda at launch, they're not taking at least one thing into account. And this thing is, we don't know what other games are going to be coming out for the system. People are acting like Zelda is the only game that could sell the system, when in actuality, that's just not true. Let's go over the games that we do know, or at least are reasonably going to come out for the Switch at or near launch. Skyrim. An open world action fantasy adventure game, very much so like Zelda. NBA 2K. Probably a Splatoon, either a sequel or a remaster of the Wii U version. Some Mario Kart game, either a port or a new Mario Kart. And a new 3D Mario game. Now, I'm just going to go out on a limb here. I don't have numbers in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that Mario games as a whole have actually outsold Zelda in almost every single generation. I can't prove this, but I have a pretty good hunch that Mario in general sells better than Zelda. So if this is the case, you're telling me that if a Mario game, also Mario is probably the most recognizable video game character. He's basically the face of video games. So you're telling me that people won't go to the store and see, oh, the Switch has this character I know, Mario, and okay, I'll get that for me or even my children. Like I know my kids like playing that character, so I'm gonna buy it for them. Or I like that character. I haven't played Mario in 30 years. I want to play this now. I'm not saying that people don't know who or what Zelda is, but the mind share of Mario is much bigger than Zelda. Now, having Zelda at launch would not be a bad thing by any means, but going off of what I was talking about, Skyrim and Zelda are, especially this Zelda, they're two pretty similar games. And Eiji Aonuma came out and said that he actually was inspired by Skyrim in order to make this next Zelda game. So, in my opinion, I personally think if Skyrim is a launch game, I think it would make perfect sense for Zelda to give Skyrim some room to breathe, like a few months. Not saying that Nintendo should always pander to third parties, but in this case, I feel like it makes sense. Skyrim's never been on Nintendo consoles, and really Bethesda hasn't either. So it would be in Nintendo's best interest to allow Bethesda room to get the sales that they want in order to keep producing games for the system. If Zelda and Skyrim both launched on the same day, people would basically have to pick, we wouldn't necessarily, but essentially people would be picking one game or the other and then splitting their time between the two, and it just wouldn't be a good thing for really either game. They would essentially be cannibalizing the because there would be two open world action fantasy adventure games that are pretty similar in gameplay, and like it just, I know they are different games, but they're very similar in how you play them and the amount of time you have to put in them in order to get stuff out of it. It just, I feel like it would be in Nintendo's advantage to let these third parties have time for those games to sell. Now, granted, that is what Nintendo tried to do with the Wii U, and it just didn't work. But another thing that people who are bashing Nintendo, saying that the Switch is going to straight up flop regardless, they're not taking into account that Nintendo is a smart company. Like them or not, you can't argue that they're a smart company. They're in this business to make money. So regardless of what you feel of them, they're open to change. Regardless of if you think otherwise, they are open to change, especially after what happened with the Wii U. And even to an extent with the 3DS, because the 3DS was their lowest selling handheld platform. And Wii U is obviously their lowest selling console outside of the Virtual Boy. So if the Switch really is their next console and handheld, they're going to want to do something completely different from the Wii U and 3DS, specifically making the system much more powerful. And if the rumors are true and it is very easy to develop for, it is powerful enough, then third parties should have no objection to putting their games on it. And if my idea with the whole 3G, 4G data thing, giving the portable aspect of it wireless all the time, then I don't really see any reason for third parties not to put their games on the system. That was the main problem with the Wii U. It was hard to develop for. It wasn't really strong enough to make a lot of their games run as well as they would like, so they didn't really see a point in putting their games on there in the first place. So just kind of all these things came together to make third parties just not want to put their games on the system, even though Nintendo gave them plenty of time between releases to let their games thrive. Now, the few games that were released, like Monster Hunter and Lego City, those games, they sold fine. But if other third parties had put games out there, I'm sure they would have been bought. But I can understand why third parties didn't see it as a financial advantage. It wouldn't be advantageous of them to put their games on the system. If it is very easy to put games on the Switch, then having Zelda release a few months after would not be a bad thing. There would be games in between March and, let's say, June or July for people to play. Especially if we also have Splatoon, Mario Kart, what other games, that rumored Mario Rayman Rabbids RPG thing. So yeah, if there are those games on there, and there are the third-party games to fill in the gaps, and even if there are the other ports, like a Smash Bros. Port in there, I foresee Zelda not being on the Switch as not the biggest deal. Now, it could go the opposite way. If Zelda does launch with the Switch, then maybe Nintendo worked it out with third parties to okay, we understand that you guys want your games to sell in the system. We want your games to sell in the system. So Nintendo could be okay, make your game, delay your games a month or 2 months just to give Zelda time to breathe, and then release your Skyrims, then release your Call of Duties or Battlefields or whatever, just so you don't get destroyed by Mario and Zelda. So, in conclusion, does the Switch need Zelda to succeed or even to sell? No. The only thing the Switch needs to sell is to come out of the gate in good mindshare with the consumers. The main reason why the Wii U didn't sell that well is because right out of the gate, by December of 2012, yeah. By December of 2012, the majority of people already just assumed that the Wii U was not a good console. And they already did not want to buy it. They already made up their choice. So, essentially, people thought, even if these big games did come out for the system, I'm not going to buy it because I don't see a point. I'm happy with my other consoles. So, if the Switch can come out of the gate with good mindshare, with great games, and preferably sell pretty well out of the gate, and that's on Nintendo. Because if the rumor is true that they're only shipping 2 million units at launch, that's gonna be a mistake. If Nintendo can ship enough at launch, if they can sell enough at launch, if they have the games at launch and the mindshare at launch, and the Switch will be just fine. If they market it right. So basically, it's all on Nintendo just to start off right. If they can start off right, they can ride the system into the sunset and be perfectly fine. Honestly, at this point, I think Nintendo will be perfectly fine with selling 30 plus million units. So if they can do that, they'll be perfectly fine. They don't need Zelda at launch in order to sell this system. It would be nice. It would probably sell more systems, but they don't need it. Now, you could also argue that since The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is the main game Nintendo seems to be pushing, it is the game that was on Fallon and the first one that was in the Switch reveal trailer, then casuals who go to the Switch launch not knowing what games are going to be on the system, but they do know that Zelda's there. If Zelda's not there, then they might be confused and just don't want to buy the system. Maybe they're thinking, oh, it was some other system, and then they'll forget about it. That could be a mistake, but the vast majority of people who are going to buy this system, if there is a Mario game there, if they did go there for Zelda and they don't see it, but they do see Mario, they're more than likely still going to pick it up if they do see a Mario game or Mario Kart, or etc. etc. So, yeah, that's just my 2 cents. I have really high hopes for this system. As long as Nintendo just does it right, I want to believe that Nintendo realized their mistakes of the Wii U and even to an extent the 3DS, and I have a very good feeling that they're going to do this one right. They're going to do right by the fans. They're going to do right by the developers. If they'll do fine. I really, really think and hope this. So, yeah. If in the comments, if you still think that the Switch needs Zelda at launch, please comment down below. I'd like to have a discussion going. So, yeah. I'll see you next time.